Perfectionism, the consistent, persistent pursuit of flawlessness, absolute precision, and exactness. A state of high achievers, or is it something darker? Our world has pedestalized perfectionism as a virtue. Without observing its equal and opposite side, we have to wonder if our pursuit of perfection is actually the virtue that we hold it in regard as, or an ill-advised mental disorder of consistent distress that we should pay more attention to. What separates it from having high standards, and how does it manifest itself in our daily lives? And most importantly, for the people that experience this on a daily basis, what does it mean to, for, and about them? I like the sight of everything tucked away perfectly, of a video created exactly the way I pictured it in my head, or of food on a plate looking the exact way that makes it as appealing as possible to me. I keep obnoxiously high standards for myself. Other people might think I'm crazy, but anything that leaves from me I expect to be as excellent as it possibly can. I hear the voices of my parents in my head telling me that anything worth doing is worth doing well. Otherwise, don't even bother to do it to begin with. Another phrase I heard a lot was, the last rep is the only one that really counts. But I do have moments where it gets overbearing. When it's time to make my work or myself vulnerable to public criticism, that's when the voice becomes a bit teasing. Like, what would the public say if they saw my work? And what if someone came to my house and saw that I had things in disarray? They would think that my life is a mess. I've struggled with this type of perfectionism for the majority of my life, especially my adult life. Like, an example would be when I'm working on a project. I'd burn countless hours just working on the most minor of things. Like, if a hair is in the video on a white surface, I'd paint over that hair as tightly as I can. And it's something that an average person would not even notice. And I always thought it was really just my own high standards until it started to become a bit problematic. And I noticed with other things it wouldn't act up. Like, if I misplaced my keys, I would never be angry at myself the way I'd be for not being perfect in other ways. Here's where the question of what is perfectionism comes into focus. As you may have noticed in your own life, you can be perfectionist in certain areas and completely absent to those feelings in other aspects of life. For example, many people find themselves perfectionist about their housing decor, but completely absent to the feeling of not being perfect when they misplace their house keys. And we have to ask ourselves the question, why? Why does this happen? And is it actually a good thing when it happens in those areas that it does? Perfectionism isn't technically a psychological disorder. It's characterized as a trait based on the voluntary ability to stop, whilst an inability to stop could be classified as something similar to obsessive-compulsive disorder, an anxiety-based disorder where the person consistently repeats behaviors unwillingly to reduce their anxiety. Perfectionism has been further broken down into two types: adaptive and maladaptive perfectionism. Adaptive perfectionism is the setting of high goals and personal standards and striving for the rewards associated with achievement while retaining the ability to be satisfied with one's performance. This is what we would perceive as a person that has a healthy relationship with the pursuit of excellence, or someone that has extremely high standards but a solid sense of self. Maladaptive perfectionism, on the other hand, is the creation and pursuit of unrealistic expectations and a self-critical review of your achievements that focus on what was done wrong rather than what was positively accomplished. The key difference being our ability to dwell as objectively as possible in reality, aware of our own capabilities, achievements, and shortcomings, and how we attribute esteem to ourselves based on this information. What that means is that those of us with maladaptive perfectionism, those that need to get it right, aren't actually in the pursuit of excellence. We're actually trying to escape a critical inner voice. Hey guys, uncomfortably close pause for me to tell you all really quickly about my newsletter down below. If you're getting any value out of this video, I think you'd really enjoy the newsletter because it's just a 1 to 3 minute read with summaries of the key points and takeaways I get when I make my videos. It also has some additional information that could not make it into the videos because of whatever reason. Maybe it wasn't engaging enough, but it's too nerdy. I'm a nerd. You guys know I'm a nerd by now. So yeah, you can sign up for that newsletter down below. It's a great way to show support for me, as well as I won't spam you. You'll just be getting additional key points and takeaways that can help you in your whatever. All right, let's get back to the video. The world of business is the worst place for you to have perfectionism. It affected me substantially when I first entered because I needed to have the perfect logo, the perfect email, the perfect website, and I'd keep redoing and redoing while everyone else that I was competing with was just throwing things against the wall and moving ahead as fast as they could. And well, needless to say, I got destroyed initially. On an intellectual level, I knew that how this was absolutely a waste of time, the majority of things that I was doing. But on an emotional level, I couldn't stop myself from trying to make everything as excellent as possible. The longer I spent perfecting a single project for a client, the less opportunity I had to experiment, to improve, to differentiate myself. And obviously my competition that weren't doing that was just covering massive ground. Perfectionism can manifest itself in multiple ways. For some, it's a critical inner voice born of a time when doing anything less than perfect would feel that it would result in the removal of love and validation born of family or other life circumstances. For others, perfectionism manifests itself in an externalized identity where there are very specific realms upon which we rest so much of our egos that it has to be done perfectly. A fashionista expects their outfit to be exceptional because that's the source of validation of their identity, and to find that incorrect would thrust them into an internal examination and reevaluation completely of who they are, and that would question their ability to successfully navigate life. For most people with a healthy self-esteem, however, perfectionism presents itself as procrastination and justification for not pursuing our interest. Having an idea and holding on to it just long enough for someone else to do it, or getting just far enough into that painting that we'd like to do to completely forget about it because we get busy. It's a fear of inadequacy, ridicule, and rejection, disguised as a fear of failure, activated anytime we go after something we truly desire. Because think about it, why would we be afraid to fail to begin with? Because attempting something that we truly desire and failing would force us to stare nakedly at our own inadequacies and our potential unworthiness of creating the world we desire. I framed it because it's a good lesson. After my second business ran into a wall, I started having these desperate thoughts. I couldn't sleep, my heart was racing, my mind was racing, and overall I just lost completely my sense of self. And this was a new experience for me because the thing I used to validate my sense of self, which was the perfectionism, the achievement, was no longer there. And I got a really good lesson from it, that I am not the result of the actions, but I am the thing executing the actions that can grow and evolve and change. And that in itself is what makes me enough. And beating this perfectionism, at least for me, is, and this is gonna sound cliche as hell, it really does just come down to acceptance. Acceptance of failure as a possibility, acceptance of rejection, acceptance of negative judgment from other people, and also knowing at the same time that I can survive all of that. At the root of it, perfectionism is an attempt at control and certainty. a manifestation of our covert agreement with the universe that if we use our gifts righteously, we won't be hurt. But fortunately, life cannot be controlled. Suffering is our birthright, and exposing ourselves to that suffering is the only way to grow. Putting your work out in front of people to be open to criticism, showing your family your angry and vulnerable side, walking through 20 different failures so that you can see on the other end of that doubt, disappointment, and hurt that you are beyond that critical inner voice. You are the person that is capable of adapting and growing despite any situation that occurs. And I don't want to leave you all confused as to what next steps you can take to resolve the perfectionism. So I'm going to give you some mantras I use in the short term as well as a plan for the longer term later on. The next one is the best one. Don't get hung up on now when you have forever to improve. 97% is still an A, self-explanatory. Would I critically examine this in another person's work? If I wouldn't, then I just leave it alone. If my best friend did this, how would I talk to them about it? Am I talking to myself that same way? In the longer run, journaling and positive self-affirmations, as corny as it sounds, are things that have really helped me in dealing with the perfectionism. I also employ some techniques from CBT, which you can find pretty easily online. If you have any issues around using either of these or you want to know more, you can leave it in the comments below and let me know. I'll put it in a newsletter so you can get all the actual things that I do for myself so you can practice it yourself as well. Please be sure to leave a comment down below with what your key takeaway from the video was. It'll help others who click onto the video and want to see if it's worth watching to the end for it to really be able to help them. You can click here or here for any one of my videos that may be of use to you. And as always, thanks for watching.